station making history every day.
Chicago, Chicago.
Now, Jake Hartford and John Cass.
89
9:08, 8:09.
Jake Hartford, John Cass, 89 WLS. We're taking your calls today, 591-8900.
Thursday morning, which means the WLS box office will be open later on. We'll give you some details on that. I want to start with a local story, John. But first, before we go to the local story, I want to kind of give a big overview.
All right.
Today is the first day the kids that from Newtown, Connecticut, at Sandy Hook School are going back to school, but they're going to a different school because the first one where everybody was killed is still a crime scene.
And kids can't ever go
and
back
it's
there,
a tough situation. And as we talked at the time, people talked about the shooter and why was he not under some sort of psychic evaluation for, whether he was crazy or not.
Right.
Why didn't the cops?
Why can't we prevent violence?
And we do this in every shooting.
Right.
We say, look for the signs.
Why didn't we stop it?
Well, in the Virginia Tech shooting, you look back and you see all the mile markers where, this happened and he did this and that. And then you say, well, see, they should have done something.
Right.
And nothing. And the authorities don't, because it's easy after the fact to go back and see somebody's actions and say, yeah, well, this is what he did. Of course, this makes sense now.
As indicators, right?
As indicators, right. Now, that's the big picture. So that we talk about, we should be able to see how people act and then judge accordingly, get the authorities involved. Well, the local story now is Nathaniel Beller. Back in September, he threatened to burn his kids. He was living with his girlfriend. He put gasoline in a bathtub. He lived in Cicero. There was a tense negotiation back and forth with the Cicero police. They finally let the two children go. One belonged to his girlfriend. The other one was his. The son, I think, was 9 years old. The daughter was 4. And they arrested him. And they did a psychiatric evaluation at McNeil Hospital. And, that was done. The Cicero police asked for felony charges. The Cook County State's Attorney declined. And then there's some finger pointing now back and forth between, Cicero police and whatever. And you say, okay, that was a bad thing back in September. Well, the other day, he killed his girlfriend, her 4-year-old daughter, himself. The 9-year-old son is still in the hospital, critical condition, covered with critical burns over about 40% of his body. And people are asking, how does this happen? How did this happen the other day?
Well, what's amazing is that he threatened the same thing. He'd do the same thing, and he did it. And the police had him, and the state's attorney understood that he had filled a bathtub with gasoline, threatened to burn the children, then went in for psychiatric evaluation, right?
Right.
But they didn't charge him. And then he does it again. But this time, he lights the match. And that is just...
I mean, if you went to indicators, there are your indicators. Nothing like, well, this person was acting kind of strange. And I mean, here he told you what he wanted to do. He showed you what he wanted to do. And where were the authorities here?
Well, there weren't bullets involved, right? It wasn't a gun.
No.
So it's gasoline. I don't think you need permits to buy gasoline. There's no is there a bureaucratic entry point for politicians to make speeches, right? And to pretend that they're doing something? No. But this story, in today's Chicago Sun-Times, the headline, alleged arsonist made threat months ago and wasn't charged. Let me read you Paragraph, Andy Conklin, a spokesman for the Cook County State's Attorney's Office, that's Cook County State's Attorney Anita Alvarez, confirmed that prosecutors declined to file felony charges in part because Johnson refused to sign a criminal complaint.
That was his girlfriend. The
girlfriend, right. He declined further explanation of why Byler wasn't charged. Are you kidding me? What do you make of that, Jake?
And then the story just doesn't end there.
No, it gets worse.
The state took away the kids, gave them to a foster parent who's now under investigation, but because
probably
apparently
a relative, right?
Well, I don't know what the connection is, but this guy Nathaniel Beller wasn't supposed to go near the kids,
right?
And somehow they let this guy get the kids and do what he did.
For the state's attorney's office to say that they didn't charge him because the mother would not press charges. He's got a full bathtub full of gasoline. Are you kidding me? I mean, what kind of joke is this? And these children are dead.
What would have happened if he had gone into a school with gasoline and burned kids at a school? We'd be going, oh my gosh, this was terrible. Why didn't we see this?
He gave us the warning. He threatened to do it before.
I mean, will this go away because it was just him, his girlfriend, and a couple kids?
Will it go away because they're African American and people marginalize minority homicides in this country? I don't know. So you have two issues here. One, will this go away because of that? And number two, how do you really expect to stop mass murder based on somebody's actions when you have something as simple as this? Here you go. Here's what he wanted to do. Bathtub's full of gas.
He had the bathtub full of gas. You've got the two kids, and then boom. Nobody does it. He had the psychiatric evaluation, and I guess he was okay. He's not criminally insane. He's just mad. Now what is he? We'll get to your calls, 591-8900, 915. Time for Traffic on the Fives with Dave Stewart right here on 89 WLS. 916, I want to remind you that the 89 WLS box office opens every Thursday, giving you a chance to win tickets to an upcoming show or event. Later today, you have a chance to win, I believe it's a pair of tickets to see the advanced screening of Gangster Squad starring Josh Brolin, Ryan Gosling, I love that guy, Nick Nolte, love him too, Emma Stone, who doesn't love her, and Sean Penn, I'm a little on him. Anyway, the screening is next Wednesday, January 9th at the AMC River East Theater in Chicago. For more info, go to WSAM.com. You get a chance later today to win. You know, we're talking about the story that Jake brought up this morning, the Sun-Times, heart-rending, heartbreaking story with so many different implications. I want to tell you one thing from it. We're talking about this man who, he had the gasoline in the bathtub with the children, threatening to burn them. He got away with it. He wasn't charged. The state's attorney didn't charge him. And then later he did the same thing and killed the children, himself and his girlfriend. Listen, Byler released the children, this is the first time, unharmed to police, and later claimed he had never planned to hurt them, but they found a cigarette lighter in his bathtub filled with gas when they forced their way in and arrested him. Worse still, sources told the Chicago Sun-Times that Nasiri, that's the 9-year-old son, his socks were soaked with gasoline, a sign that he had likely been placed in the tub filled with gas. And somehow that didn't make the police report. And somehow they didn't make the state's attorney file charges. Let's get to the phones. John in Malcolka Lake. Good morning, John.
It's McCollum Lake, and good morning,
McCollum
guys.
Lake,
hey,
I'm
Cass,
sorry.
I love your potatoes.
Oh, you made the potatoes, huh? Thank you.
Yeah, they were far out. Listen, this is the second story recently where something caught my attention, and I want to ask you about it. You're talking about the fact cops came in, saw the situation first time around, didn't press charges partly because the girlfriend didn't want to sign a complaint. There was another story like that recently, and I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, since when does the wheels of justice depend upon the offended party calling the shots? Is that something new? Has it always been like that? I'd appreciate you guys' insight because you have a lot.
In the past, I can't speak specifically to these two cases, this one and the one you're talking about, but in the past, they've always kind of taken that out of the hands of the domestic partner or whatever, when it's a case of domestic abuse, because a lot of times that's what happens. They change their minds.
Well, they don't want to file.
Yeah, you talk to a cop. One of the worst calls they really hate to get is a call to a domestic disturbance because you've got two people fighting, usually at least two people fighting, and then when the cops get there, they turn on the cops.
Right. The cop grabs the husband who's been beating the hell out of her, and as they're talking to him, she jumps on their back with a knife or something. That happens a lot.
But in the past, it's been the person who was the victim hasn't been able just to say, I don't want to not press charges. They always went ahead and pressed charges.
Let's say this guy had gone through a school with cans of gasoline, threatening to burn children, and say no one wanted to file a complaint. I can't believe it. But say they didn't. Do you think the police and the state's attorney's office would not charge him? Of course they would.
It doesn't really matter what the girlfriend wanted because the kids were in danger. Jim and Geneseo. Good morning, Jim.
How are you this morning, guys?
Yeah.
We're okay. A little depressed by the story.
Oh, I understand. Just a quick comment, and then I'll listen to your response. In this particular instance, you had evidence of inappropriate human behavior, as there was in Connecticut. The result was that children and adults died, as there was in Connecticut. Are we now going to ban gasoline? And I'll listen to your comments.
No. You're not going to ban the gasoline.
Because people want it.
But I know the point he's making.
Yes, of course.
If you have a sick individual who wants to commit harm, they're going to do it, whether it's with a gun, with a knife, in this case, using gasoline to burn his girlfriend and himself and the kids, whatever. They'll do it. Let's quickly go to Denise in Lake Zurich. Denise?
Hi, good morning. How are you?
We're okay. What's on your mind?
Just wanted to make a comment about this topic we're speaking of, and I thought that children were actually officially wards of the state, so why would they not press charges just because the girlfriend didn't want to press charges? I thought we were responsible to the children of the state of Illinois to take care of them and make sure they're safe.
I believe that, I'm not sure, but I think the kids became wards of the state after the incident in September, and there is an investigation now because they were placed in a foster parent home, why this guy had access to the kids because he wasn't supposed to have it.
Yes, that's it.
Right. But, I mean, when you think about it, they should be thinking about the children and not whether the girlfriend wants to press charges.
Exactly. Thank you, Denise.
Thank you.
9:21, back after this on 89 WLS.
89 WLS. When you want Chicago's classic hits, turn to 94.7 WLS. For traffic and weather info, tune into 890 AM WLS for traffic and weather first on the fives when you need it most.
9:26.
John Cass, Jake Hartford, we're talking about that poor story about the man who had the tub full of gasoline, threatened to kill the kids. John got away with it, and now joining us is...
John O'Malley, who's the Chief Deputy U.S. Marshal in Chicago, who was listening to the show. Good morning, John.
Morning, guys. How are you? How are you, John?
Hey, Johnny. How are you?
Good.
Just so you know, everybody, the U.S. Marshal, these are the bad guys who go after the real bad guys and do a great job.
We're still looking for Kevin Conley, by the way. $30,000 reward if anyone can tell us where he's at. We appreciate it.
Okay, John.
But, hey, I was coming in listening to your story and such a tragic story like this, and I just wanted to shed a little light, maybe to help you guys and your listeners.
Mm-hmm.
One of the frustrating things in law enforcement and that we deal with, especially on the federal level, are individuals who have some kind of psychological problems and are constantly making inappropriate communications, I would call them, with our federal judiciary and federal prosecutors and other people like that. And we work hand in hand with our partners in the state system, pretty much here with Cook County. And the problem being, it sounds like in this case, I'm sure this individual was sent in for a court-ordered evaluation, psychiatric evaluation, that was probably done. He was able to show that he's not a threat to himself or others. Now, again, you can't just jail the person for an indefinite amount of period of time. Why those criminal charges weren't filed is probably the real story here, and to delve into why the state's attorney made the determination that they weren't going to file federal charges. And I heard the quote from the spokesperson from the state's attorney's office saying because the mother of these children, or the girlfriend, whoever she was, wouldn't file a criminal complaint. There are ways that the state can then take over and be the complainant on those cases. But
Exactly.
I don't want to speak on behalf of the state's attorney's office why they made the determination they did. That is probably why I think it also mentioned some kind of dispute between the Cicero Police Department and the state's attorney's office, which happens often at state and federal levels, where you have the law enforcement agency who believes there's enough evidence to charge a crime, and the prosecutors on whatever level it is decide that they're not going to.
But John, what happens though? It's never really a big deal until something like this happens, and then it's like, oh my gosh, how did this happen?
Well, and it's really hard. We can never get a psychiatric official to definitely say one way or another this person is not a threat, or they will a lot of times come on the other end of it and say this person is a threat.
Mm-hmm.
But if you read the reports, it's almost a CYA. And because I think psychiatric care is such, it's not so black and white, that they are afraid to make a call one way or the other. So they'll give you their opinion, and they'll give you, an evaluation, but it will never clearly come out and state that this person is not a harm to anybody.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So it's really rough, guys. It's not as easy cut and dry as it sounds. So I don't know who's to blame, but it's a real tragedy in this case that it happened.
Thank you, John, for calling in.
All right, take care, guys.
And good luck on Connolly.
John O'Malley, Deputy U.S. Marshals
One of the great
in
guys.
Chicago. 9:30, we're going to move on to a more uplifting story, maybe, right here on 89 WS. Here's Dave Stewart with news, weather, and traffic, 9:30.